Zhang Yi, touched by Uncle Yu's selfless offer to come and assist him against the Shishan soldiers, carefully dissuaded the veteran. He acknowledged Uncle Yu's combat experience and formidable physical enhancement abilities, recalling how he had once caught the demon cat Hua Hua at full speed. However, Zhang Yi argued that a direct confrontation now would be too dangerous against the superior numbers, weapons, and superhumans of the enemy. Instead, he proposed a strategic delay, asking Uncle Yu to remain as a hidden surprise force for a future counterattack. Uncle Yu reluctantly agreed, urging Zhang Yi not to treat him like an outsider. Zhang Yi, comforted by Zhou Core and stroking Hua Hua, considered the combined strength of himself, Uncle Yu, and the demon cat as a formidable, unknown trump card. He also mused that integrating Fatty Su would be ideal, but remained patient, confident that the Shishan soldiers' occupation of Su family town would not be harmonious. In Sudong village, Shidaong, following Ling Feng's orders for a protracted siege, summoned Fatty Su and the village chief, Su Dongtang. He coldly instructed them to prepare housing and, crucially, daily food supplies for all 65 soldiers. Fatty Su's heart sank at this demand, knowing the soldiers' prodigious appetites would quickly drain the village's precious survival reserves. Su Dongtang's expression shifted uneasily, but he forced a smile of compliance, asking only when Zhang Yi would be subdued. Shidaong rebuffed him, stating operational details were military secrets, and emphasized that the villagers' provision of food and lodging was simply payment for the revenge being undertaken on their behalf. After Shidaong left, Su Dongtang straightened up and ordered Fatty Su to build snow huts for the officers and instructed other village heads to gather food offerings, hoping to secure future favor. Fatty Su watched silently, filled with worry but aware his warnings would be ignored, deciding to focus solely on protecting himself and Su Lily's family. Back at Yunk Manor, Zhang Yi implemented defensive measures to prevent a surprise night attack. He set up a rotation to guard the surveillance feeds, deducing the next assault would come from the same low hill direction. Although the storm limited camera clarity at long range, he reasoned that any attempt to move heavy explosives would create detectable noise. He assigned the reliable Lu Karen to this monitoring duty, and even enlisted the perceptive mutant cat Hua Hua by bribing it with several boxes of dried fish. For the rest of the time, Zhang Yi maintained his own vigil over the shelter. However, the anticipated night attack did not materialize. Despite Ling Feng and Shi Daiyong's enhanced physical capabilities, the pitch darkness of the abandoned, unlit upper floors of the shelter made it impossible for them to accurately place another explosive charge at the precise, previously damaged location on the structure. Dawn broke over the besieged Yunk Manor as Hua Hua's voice roused Zhang Yi from his fully clothed slumber. He scrambled to the security cameras and spotted movement on the distant low hill where Ling Feng's demolition team was assembling another massive explosive device. Through binoculars and the one-way glass of the second floor, Zhang Yi watched the enemy prepare 500 kilograms of TNT at a straight-line distance of approximately 2,400 meters. The demolition crew worked with extreme caution, each man carrying 50 kilograms to assemble, install detonators, and set timers. Ling Feng and Shi Daiyong appeared relaxed, the latter boasting of his grenade-throwing championship as they prepared to hurl the bundled charge toward the shelter. Ling Feng's gaze suddenly sharpened and turned directly toward the shelter, sensing Zhang Yi's observation despite the distance and glass. He remarked on Zhang Yi's potential and revealed the organization's leader had ordered Zhang Yi captured alive, silencing Shi Daiyong's objections about fallen comrades. The transformed Shi Daiyong and Ling Feng heaved the massive explosive into the air toward the shelter. Zhang Yi watched its trajectory, took a deep breath, and extended his right hand. Unwilling to risk the blast reaching his walls, he activated his fully repaired dimensional gate not to retrieve the explosives as before, but to release the unstable energy stored within the alternate dimension from the previous detonation. A deafening eruption burst from the gate, a shockwave that swept the incoming explosives off course and propelled them back toward the low hill. The 500-kilogram charge rolled back down the slope and, seconds later, its timer detonated it at the enemy's own position. A towering inferno engulfed everything within thousands of meters, the heat wave instantly reaching the low hill and throwing those who had not taken cover. Behind the hill's bunkers, scores of Special Forces soldiers lying in ambush were instantly incinerated, their combat uniforms, armor, and weapons vaporized in the thousands of degrees. Zhang Yi watched the flames from a distance, grinning at the devastating effect. He had only intended to deflect the bomb, but the released energy combined with the massive explosive had annihilated a significant portion of the attacking force. Behind the low mountain, a huge ice sheet cracked open as Zhang Shuerong emerged weakly, having barely managed to create an ice barrier that blocked most of the heat and saved the leadership group. Maintaining the barrier had drained her severely. Ling Feng broke through the ice and stared at the charred corpses below, his body trembling as he took in the horrific scene. The once confident group stood dumbfounded, bewildered by the sudden reversal. Their own explosives had been turned against them, resulting in a crushing defeat and the deaths of numerous Special Forces soldiers. The sudden turn of events left no capacity for anger, only stunned silence. Special Forces Captain Ling Feng roared in agony, his eyes bloodshot, looking like a madman as he gazed upon his fallen brothers in arms. Shi Daong knelt in equal anguish, smashing the ground and screaming until his heart felt like breaking. They had laughed and chatted minutes before, now those brothers were dead, killed by their own plan. There was no blaming the opponent for cruelty in wartime, they had used their methods against Zhang Yi, and he had turned the tables. Any resentment could only be directed at their own stupidity for devising such a plan, never imagining Zhang Yi would retaliate in this manner. The protracted siege continued, but the throwing tactic was now unusable unless the enemy was willing to sacrifice even more lives. The aftermath of the catastrophic friendly fire explosion left the ACE Special Forces reeling from the loss of 23 elite soldiers, including 3 cyborgs. Ling Feng stood amidst the dissipating smoke, his expression terrifyingly oppressive as he struggled to contain a fury more intense than that of a wounded beast. The mission to capture Zhang Yi had become a humiliating stalemate, costing precious lives without even breaching the enemy's shelter. He turned to Academician Wu, demanding an analysis of the mysterious force that had deflected their explosives. The academician adjusted his glasses, explaining that Zhang Yi's spatial ability clearly allowed him to absorb attacks and reflect them, a theory supported by the earlier encounters with Shin Hong's team and the absorption of energy from the previous explosion. He concluded that continuing the throwing tactic was futile, as Zhang Yi likely still possessed stored energy to counter it. This expert confirmation made Ling Feng's eye twitch involuntarily, the frustration of facing an opponent who seemed to negate every conventional approach gnawing at him. Ling Feng, forcing himself to remain calm, began brainstorming alternative strategies. He briefly entertained the idea of an underground assault, proposing to tunnel beneath Yunk Manor to plant explosives. Academician Wu quickly dismantled this plan, outlining the immense practical hurdles, the need to manually dig through permafrost, the issues of ventilation, soil removal, and the sheer time required, all while maintaining secrecy from Zhang Yi, for whom destruction would be far easier than their construction. Shi Daong, simmering with rage, suggested press-ganging the over 1,000 residents of Shujia town into forced labor. Academician Wu dismissed this as well, stating that using primitive methods in the extreme cold would be a death sentence for the civilians and that mobilizing such a large, unskilled group would inevitably alert Zhang Yi. Ling Feng's eyes, however, retained a calculating gleam, his focus singularly fixed on the leader's order to complete the mission, a goal for which he seemed willing to consider any sacrifice. Meanwhile, from within Yunk Manor, Zhang Yi watched as the smoke cleared, revealing a landscape scorched by the explosion's intense heat, with snow evaporated and the luxurious villas of the estate largely reduced to ruins. With the confirmation that the enemy's latest attack had been completely neutralized, his last trace of apprehension vanished, replaced by a cold determination to seize the initiative. "Your turn is over, it's my turn now," he declared. He positioned his fully repaired dimensional gate at the window, ordered the smart house system to open it, and set up his modified heavy sniper rifle. Taking careful aim at the group gathered on the low hill 2 kilometers away, he prepared to return fire. Among the grieving and strategizing Shishan forces, a sniper's urgent warning crackled over the walkie-talkie just as Ling Feng felt a sudden gust of wind. His perception heightened, time seeming to slow as he identified the incoming threat, a bullet infused with supernatural power streaking towards his forehead. With a swift, instinctive tilt of his head, the projectile grazed past his ear. His bloodshot eyes, filled with deep-seated hatred, locked onto Zhang Yi's figure in the distant window. "Zhang Yi," he roared. Zhang Yi, though disappointed he hadn't scored a kill, was not overly surprised, acknowledging Ling Feng's prowess as their leader. He immediately shifted his aim to the most conspicuous target, the hulking form of Shi Daong, and fired. Ling Feng's shouted warning, "Watch out, there's a sniper," came just as the bullet struck Shi Daong's forehead. The impact sprayed blood and snapped his head back, but to Zhang Yi's astonishment, the behemoth did not fall. "Ouch, that hurts. You bastard!" Shi Daong bellowed in rage, digging the bullet from his flesh and throwing it to the ground as he glared towards the shelter. Zhang Yi sighed internally, recognizing the formidable defensive capabilities of these combat-type superhumans, their durability rendered ordinary firearms nearly ineffective. Before he could take a third shot, the entire group had taken cover, vanishing from his line of sight. Almost instantly, 2 sharp cracks echoed as sniper rounds, fired from separate concealed positions, sped towards him. Without hesitation, Zhang Yi channeled the bullets into his dimensional gate. He then redirected their trajectories, sending them back with lethal precision. The 2 Shishan snipers died without ever understanding that the rounds that pierced their chests had originated from their own rifles.